right with the Stern team.
Go online to sternteam.com or just Google the Stern Team.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
We do have emergency traffic coverage. It's sponsored by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the Dino Pay app. And here's Ricky Meese.
That's right. Emergency traffic continues in Davis County on northbound I-15 where we've had a crash near Parish Lane. They have been able to open up more lanes of travel, so only 2 left lanes now open. However, we have a parking lot all the way back to 4th North Bountiful. Make your list. Check it off twice. You'll be oh so nice with gifts from This Is the Place Heritage Park's curated collections and international brands. Visit This is your place for gifts and holiday fun. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Taking a look at the forecast for the Wasatch Front, it looks like nice weather, a chance of showers coming our way on Thursday, about a 30% chance and a 20% chance on Friday as well. Highs in the low to mid-40s for most of the week. Right now, 39 degrees, a lot of sunshine in downtown Salt Lake City.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 1 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. BYU basketball fans looking forward to watching A.J. DeBonsa play for the Cougars. The nation's top-rated high school recruit committed to the Y in an appearance on ESPN this morning. UDOT says 1900 West between Sunset and Roy should be fully open again by New Year's. UDOT spokesperson Mitch Shaw says they know this project has been causing backups, but they say it'll be worth it.
It's a $238 million project and really, really big, impactful project, but when it's all said and done, it's going to be a really great improvement.
Shaw says it looks like they'll be able to finish their construction on I-15 itself sometime in 2025. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione faces a second-degree murder charge in the shooting death of a United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last week in New York. He yelled out a challenge as he was taken into the Blair County Courthouse for an extradition hearing.
I'm completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people. It's lived experience.
Mangione was arrested yesterday when a customer at a McDonald's restaurant recognized him from photos circulated by police. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up at just barely 1 point or so. NASDAQ is down right now, 50 points. And our KSL weather. Today's sunshine gives way to clouds tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 101.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Dave and Debbie,
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic now brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. And here's Ricky Meese.
Left lane still blocked with this crash in Centerville, northbound I-15 near Parish Lane. We still have stop-and-go delays back to 4th North, 5th West in the West Bountiful area. Again, if you want to avoid these backups, consider Legacy or Highway 89 as an alternate. Feel great this season with Redmond Relight Hydration. Delicious taste, essential electrolytes, no sugar, and hydrating on the go. Relight, available at Harmon's or Redmond.com. Enter KSL20 for 20% off. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with a high of 40. Clouds start moving in tomorrow and Thursday with a chance of rain and snow. Right now, we're at 39 degrees with sunny skies. I'm Dan Bonas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
The suspect arrested and charged with shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in court this morning as officials tried to extradite him from Pennsylvania, where he was caught, to New York, where the homicide was committed. Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, and I'm alongside Leah Murray. We haven't done this show for a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
How's my favorite professor?
I'm doing super well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
All right, now, Greg, if you were the defense, like you were the criminal defense attorney for this Luigi Maggioni, which
Right.
I might be pronouncing that wrong. I do apologize.
Like you said, just right.
Arrested in Altoona, charged by prosecutors in New York with a count of murder. He's the person who allegedly shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He is in Pennsylvania. I guess I was reading, too, there were charges in Pennsylvania as well.
That's because he was caught in Pennsylvania, Mangione, and he was caught in Pennsylvania with a firearm which was not registered. It's one of these ghost guns. It's sort of made with this 3D printer, so it's not registered. It's not legal to possess. And he also had 3 or 4 forms of false identification. So he was arrested in Pennsylvania on lesser charges. Of course, New York has the big ticket, which is the homicide charge, but Pennsylvania had the means by which to take him into custody.
All right, so let's listen. Here he is this morning yelling as he was taken into the courtroom.
And it's completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
So just in case you couldn't understand that, this is clearly an injustice and an insult to the intelligence of the American people with lived experience. That sound coming to us from TV station WNEP. So you're going to defend him. You're not really. This is a hypothetical that I'm setting up for you, Greg. Woof. How do you defend him? I feel like we all know he did it.
Well, it sounds like they've got a very good case. It sounds to me like he's got some mental health issues. And one of the first things you'd want to do is have him evaluated. Even his family, Leah, have said he's this, he went to UPenn. He graduated at the top of his class at the private school where he went. And, you know, he's a very bright kid. He studied political science computer science, I think. At UPenn.
Excuse me.
Sorry. I'm sitting across from the greatest political science professor in Utah. So anyway, computer
Computer
science.
science.
He did very well. And then he sort of dropped off the face of the earth about 6 months ago. And people have sort of been wondering what he's doing, what he's about. He had, I guess, a serious back injury that may have exacerbated some of his problems. He's found, and he's sort of become a disciple of this, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. Not really your the person you want your son to be sort of following, but he's got an agenda. He seems to have an agenda. This, what they call it, the manifesto. I don't know why these people all have manifestos. I've never had one. I've never carried one with me.
So let's actually, New York City police have examined these manifestos, the writings they say that come from him. Let's listen to ABC's Chuck Silverston talking about it.
Luigi Mangione considered the killing to be a symbolic takedown of United Healthcare over perceived corruption and power games. That, according to a confidential assessment of the crime by the NYPD Intelligence Bureau, described to ABC News. The source says it's based partly on the suspected killer's writings. Mangione allegedly described himself as the first to face United Healthcare with such brutal honesty.
Right, and Mangione talking about in an online review of the Unabomber, Theodore Kaczynski, saying that it's easy to quickly and thoughtlessly write this off as the manifesto of a lunatic in order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies. Right, so I think, I think a lot of people in this country would say health insurance, knowing that's never your favorite person, right? So if you are ever someone who is dealing with health insurance, like it's, always hard. And I'm always very kind to those people when I call them because I'm like, they're just doing their job, right? But for the most part, if you are in an argument with your health insurance, something horrible has happened to you, health related, and now you're dealing probably with some major debt as a result of something horrible that happened to you. So people have feelings about it, right? And so a little bit, Mangione probably is reacting, right, in a horribly wrong and over-the-top way to what maybe is a concern that people have.
So he's trying to justify what he did. And there is no justification for a homicide. It's certainly not here. The shell casings that were found at the scene, if you recall, had writing on them. It had to be pretty small writing, but it said deny, depose, what is it? The three words that they use that they sort of blame the insurance companies: deny, defend, depose. In other words, find ways to get out of paying claims before you pay them. It was part of some book that he had read that talked about how the insurance industry, it really goes out of its way to deny making claims, making it so difficult that people just finally give up and don't pay their claims. And that's what makes the insurance companies so rich.
Yeah, no, and again, I want to be clear. I love how you said that just now, Greg. There's no excuse or justification at all, and I want to make sure that we elevate that. Brian Thompson is the CEO of United Healthcare, right? So he becomes the target. His wife, Paulette, told NBC News that he'd been receiving threats recently. Again, you could be angry about health insurance. I think we all have been there. None of us would do something like this, right? So the answer is there's got to be other avenues to take your complaints. So again, but you're saying your criminal defense attorney, the first thing you're going to do is have him evaluated. Would you raise any of this stuff about health insurance? No, you're just saying.
No, I mean, because it plays into what he was thinking, why he did it. It doesn't necessarily play into his lunacy, his lack of competence. But for a person to justify a killing based on something like this certainly gives credence to the fact that they're not thinking correctly. If you're, it's like Theodore Kaczynski. He's after people that are big in internet, and he thought that we were going in the wrong direction as it relates to artificial intelligence and things like that, and so he goes off the deep end. This kid's upset at the way the insurance industry is being handled, and he's doing something. I don't know, and he's presumed innocent, let's face it, but it looks like they have a strong case against him. He's doing something that he thinks is right under the circumstances, and when you have somebody like that, a client who believes that what they did was correct, they're justifying something that's clearly unjustifiable, they're not thinking correctly.
All right, so you said earlier New York has the big ticket. Pennsylvania had forged documents and possession of a ghost gun. But is the answer that you arrest him in Pennsylvania so you have him?
Yep.
Or
exactly.
Okay, go talk.
So they had him in Pennsylvania. So he's at the McDonald's in Pennsylvania. A person who's eating there recognizes him. Call the police. They come swoop in. They take him into custody. They can't just put him on a Uber, take him to New York. I'm being facetious, but
they can't arrest him for the New York that's not how that works.
Well, correct. They can.
Okay.
They have jurisdiction in Pennsylvania. They're going to arrest him in Pennsylvania because New York didn't have a warrant outstanding for him, so they couldn't arrest him on a New York warrant because it didn't exist. He hadn't been charged yet. But the law enforcement authorities in Pennsylvania had probable cause to believe that he'd committed a crime in Pennsylvania, to wit, possession of a restricted firearm, possession of forged documents, possession of numerous forged documents. So they can easily arrest him. They don't care about the New York case at that point. All they care about is being able to hook him up, take him into custody, and make sure he doesn't go anywhere. Now, obviously, he's going to be extradited to New York because that's where the big case is.
So that's the next step. And so the question is: there a trial happening right in Pennsylvania about extradition? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It's called an extradition hearing.
Okay.
And the only issue in extradition hearings is that the individual. That's your only defense. You can say, oh, that's not me. I'm not the person. So New York's going to have to bring somebody in and say, this is the guy we're looking for on our case, and he fits the criteria of the person. Bring him to New York. He'll probably waive extradition. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's going to fight everything. But I mean, and it's not like they're shipping him across the country. I mean, they're pretty close,
Right.
So it's probably a bus ride.
All right. So, and then how does that work? Because I do feel like you and I have had this conversation previous with other cases.
Right.
Do they try him in Pennsylvania? No, because those are little ticket items. The point for all law enforcement is going to be to get him back to New York.
So the various prosecutors in the two jurisdictions will sit down and talk, like they did with Tammy Daybell, Arizona, Idaho. Which one do we want to? Of course, those are both homicide cases, so they're both going to take their piece. But in this case, they're saying Pennsylvania's going to say, New York, are you ready to bring this guy to justice? And they're going to say, yeah, they're going to take him there. Pennsylvania's not going to care about their case in the meantime until they can get him to New York. When we come back after the break, we are going to talk about an audit that was done of our election procedure. And I think it's a very favorable audit, but it talks about some things that could or could not have been done differently in the state of Utah. Stay with us.
The KSL News Radio app will update you on breaking stories.
A house explosion this afternoon.
And you'll get exclusive audio streams from local events, breaking news, and sports.
Cougars feel like they can overcome anything.
All of your favorite KSL hosts are there too, so you can listen anytime. Plus traffic and weather. Download it today. The app for KSL News Radio.
It's a new chapter for energy in your community. Dominion Energy is now Enbridge Gas in Utah, Wyoming, and Idaho. With 175 years experience delivering reliable energy, we're pleased to welcome customers formerly served by Dominion Energy to our Enbridge family. While the name of your gas company has changed, we remain your first choice for affordable natural gas. For more information, visit enbridgegas.com. That's ENBRIDGE gas.com. Tomorrow is on.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. Emergency traffic continues for Davis County drivers on northbound I-15 with the accident in Centerville near Parish Lane. We still have 2 left lanes of traffic blocked, and traffic is starting to move again, but very slowly. You have slow and go and stop and go delays into Bountiful. Again, if you want to avoid these delays, your options right now would be northbound Legacy or northbound Highway 89. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? It's natural to think of this as being your money, right? But remember, you still have to pay taxes when you withdraw this money in retirement. And you could be paying a lot more in taxes on these accounts than you know. A lot more. Learn the strategies that can help you reduce or eliminate your taxes in retirement. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 102.7.
Donate your car to Charity Hotline. This is Roger.
Hi, Roger, I'd like to donate my car.
Yeah, good. Leave the keys in it, park it on the street, and we'll send a thug. Tow.
Where's your office?
In New Jersey. Where do you want it to be?
Well, Roger, I want to make sure my donation helps Utah kidney patients.
It will.
Which ones?
Well, does it matter?
Yes, I want the money to stay in Utah.
And boy, have you got the wrong number.
If you want your car donation to help people here in Utah, turn your car into a kidney car for the National Kidney Foundation
Association of Utah and Idaho. Hi, this is Luz Lewis Perez. Kidney Cars is the Beehive State's #1 choice for charity car donation since 1990. When you donate your car to Kidney Cars, funding stays in Utah to help local Utah kidney patients and funds local medical research. Kidney Cars gets donors the highest tax deduction, along with free towing. Visit towcars.org and learn more. That's towcars with a K like kidney. That's TOWKARS.org.
This holiday season, give the gift of joy with Mrs. Kavanaugh's chocolates. Imagine the delight on your loved ones' faces as they unwrap a box of their handcrafted gourmet chocolates. From creamy caramels to chocolate-covered treats, each piece is made with love and the finest ingredients. Family owned for over 60 years, Mrs. Kavanaugh's offers a tradition of quality and care. Whether it's their famous chocolate-covered nuts or their decadent fudge, Mrs. Kavanaugh's has something to make every holiday moment sweeter. Find the perfect gifts this year for your family, friends, and employees at mrscavanaughs.com or visit their retail store to explore their holiday specials and delicious corporate gifts. Order now and make the season unforgettable with the magic of Mrs. Kavanaugh's chocolates, where every bite is a memory. Share the sweetness.
Tim, we've got some really good news for our listeners.
Yeah, as long as we've been talking about soda and seen all the success stories around the halls here at KSL about soda, we have never seen this.
Yeah, so it's 2 for 1 in the month of December, which means, I had life-changing weight loss with soda. I lost 34 pounds, and I did it 3 years ago now, and I want that increase in energy and confidence and health for all of our listeners. And right now, you and your spouse or you and your child could do it 2 for 1.
Double the results, half the cost. We've told you the story of my daughter who lost 42 pounds and how that nutritionist actually becomes like a member of your family. Well, now you can have a member of your family who also gets the benefits of being able to reach out and get that needed help along the way from a great nutritionist.
How great is that to be able to not just do it for yourself, but to also do it for somebody you love?
Go to sodaweightloss.com right now. It's spelled SOTA and it stands for state of the
art.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the nation's top high school basketball recruit will be playing for the BYU Cougars next year. Second, UDOT hopes to have 1900 West and Roy finished and open again by the end of the month. And third, 2 federal agents have been arrested in Utah, accused of distributing drugs. 39 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
And welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside my good friend Greg Skordas, and we're chatting about all the interesting things. Greg, did you know in 1960 that Daly raised the dead in Chicago, and that's how Kennedy became president?
Do you believe that?
No, but isn't it the best
yes.
election
It's great.
conspiracy
Yes,
theory
right.
ever, right? So
for both of them. Daly
How
and
so?
Kennedy.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
people that have these mystique around them
Right.
that follows them forever.
living legends,
Right,
right,
yes,
around
right.
that election. So the thing is, I want to say that people have thought dead people have voted forever.
Right.
Right? That is something that has always been a conversation. I think whenever your team loses, you just assume dead people must have voted for the other team.
Right.
But what's interesting is the legislature did an audit of Utah's election system. And as it turns out, they found 1,400 deceased voters on Utah's rolls. Only 2 of them voted, by the way. So they had 1,400 people who had died on the rolls, 2 who had voted. And so a little bit, the auditor said, hey, maybe we should be taking better care of curating our voter list, how we maintain it. Maybe we need to be a little bit more proactive. Can I say something on this really specifically? If it were the case that someone in my family died, it would never occur to me on my list of many
Governor's
things,
office.
right? The list of things you have to do after someone dies in your family is to get their name off their voting rolls. So to be clear, I think, the 1,400 apparently deceased voters and the 2 who voted, I did wonder about that too, Greg. I wonder if actually someone mailed in their ballot on October 20th and maybe passed away before the election happened, right?
Or a husband and wife both got their ballots, and one of them had passed away and accidentally signed the other person's ballot, so that it wasn't like an additional voter. I mean, but 1,400 is 1,400 too many. But given 2 million registered voters, that's less than 0.5%, and that's just people that were that were still registered voters. Only 700 or less than 700 of those had ballots sent out to them, as I understand it.
Yeah,
and 2 voted. I mean, 2 out of 2 million is like, I don't know.
Not a
it's
lot.
too many, and it shouldn't happen. But to me, that tells you that the system's working pretty well. That's the message I get from
the fact
that particular stat.
Right,
There are others.
Such a small number, right? All right, so let's talk about the other issues that the audit brought up. The report said that there were 300 individuals who had been given potentially 2 voter identification numbers. And that's the number that you have that's not connected in any way to you except as a voter. Right? So it's not your social security number, right? It's not your driver's license number, it's your voter number. 450 records in which a driver's license number was shared between 2 voters who were seemingly different people. So a little bit there, I think, as someone who does a ton of voter registration, right? And you're always saying to people, you need your driver's license numbers. Again, someone might have inadvertently, fat-fingered their entry of a driver's license number, and that maybe auditors found few instances, just few, of individuals voting multiple times in a single election over the past 2 years, but they don't say an actual number. So I'm not sure if few or... Like few to me is 3, but maybe for them few is a different number.
So we have an example that happened in one of the counties, and I'm involved in it a little bit, where voters voted twice. And I'll tell you what happened. They voted in both the Democratic and the Republican primaries. And I know we're talking about the general election here, but they didn't realize that you were limited to one or the other. And so they voted in both. There are a series of cases that are filed in one of the local counties, and these people were charged criminally, but they're all like, we didn't know any better. You know what I mean? So, and they were caught. I mean, it was like, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. So I can see, I don't know, I'm glad they do these audits. They have to do these audits. They're important because of so much going on in the country right now about voter fraud, making sure it's all done fairly. Utah is, I think, one of the leading states in the nation as it relates to mail-in voting. We've done it for as long as anybody. We've done it as successful as long as anybody else. And I would hope that this doesn't change what we're doing in Utah. But, I mean, you've got to do these audits to make sure we're doing it right.
Except, let's be clear, it's not about the mail-in voting. Like, the point of the top of the segment when I was doing do you remember 1960?
Right.
The point is...
Dead people.
Right. Voter rolls are hard. And
Right.
so it's on somebody, I don't know if it's the LG or it's the county clerks, I guess, to find out who died. And that's why I was being a little bit flip again. If someone died in my family, the first thing I'm doing is not calling my county clerk to say that they died. And maybe there's a way, I don't know, we do that a little bit better.
But it would be a lot harder for a dead person to vote in person. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you have false identification or something. So it's easier for an allegedly dead person to vote by use of the mail-in ballots than if you have to show up with your Utah identification.
Right, but my point is just that if in 1960 what we claim is true, clearly they figured it out.
Right, yes.
Right, okay, so.
Exactly.
Also, while working on the report, auditors found that there were post-election audits. So one of the ways I think we're supposed to feel secure about our elections is that there's an audit afterward to make sure that everything happened. And they found that, and they looked at post-election audits in all the 29 counties across 3 separate elections. So they really did their due diligence. They found that 9 county clerks neglected to examine paper ballots. 13 clerks did not review the individual cast vote records during their audit. So in addition to making sure that we curate our lists better, one of the recommendations is that clerks have to learn and execute post-election audit process requirements and procedures, and that the LG's office needs to create those rules establishing criteria for those audits.
And it's one of the most important things that a state elections registrar has to do, the county clerks, the state lieutenant governor. I mean, you get the ballots together, you get the votes together, you count the votes, and then you do an audit later on to make sure everything's done correctly. I understand dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making everything is done right, but yes, some of these fell through the cracks. And to the credit of the lieutenant governor's office, they did issue this report. They did make some recommendations, and we'll talk about those later. But to some of these county clerks saying, hey, in the future, these are things that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, and then that does beg the question, do the county clerks answer to the lieutenant governor?
As it relates to elections, I would say absolutely.
They do. So the lieutenant
that's
governor's...
just me. But my lawyer hat. But
that's just Greg in
I would
his
say
head.
that's my guess. I have little doubt that they do, though, as in elections, because the lieutenant governor is the chief elections registrar, and I think that they oversee the various counties because they can't be in every county. And so that's my guess as to how it works.
Yeah, and I really am interested in that, right? Because I do think county clerks are elected officials.
Right.
Independent, right? They're not voted at the same time necessarily as lieutenant governor. And so a little bit, I do wonder about that jurisdictional intersection. Does that make sense? Like, who is actually in charge of it? I mean, I guess that
county clerks do more than elections too, though, where the lieutenant governor probably doesn't oversee them. I'm just saying in that little space, in terms of elections, they're probably part of the lieutenant governor's office.
Yeah, and then I think it's interesting. Again, I like how we have these conversations all the time about whether our elections are secure. I am always frustrated by people who just kind of randomly say things are not secure. So I guess for me, I love, that the Utah legislature does these audits, right? Like, so they are always auditing, that they went to all the counties. That's certainly more than either you or I have ever done, right? We have not gone and watched all the counties. That they have recommendations for the LG, which I believe she agrees with, right? So anywhere that you can tighten this up, all of this just speaks to me more, Greg, about how much integrity our elections have.
Right. And I'm looking at Utah House Speaker Mike Schultz, who indicated that the audit suggests that the mail-in voting system should be revisited. I don't know that I agree with that, but he's saying what he says, the audit shows that it's clearly not the case that mail-in voting is as secure as in-person voting. He says if you're showing ID and you're in person, it's kind of hard unless you have fake ID to vote if you're dead, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at you and Speaker Schultz in a Venn diagram together, Greg Skordas. Just knock me over with a feather that just happened.
But what he's saying is mail-in voting certainly has he's saying more than that, but I was saying it certainly has a propensity to have a higher level of fraud.
Yeah, you and Speaker Schultz, besties on this issue. When Inside Sources returns, we're going to chat with the state elections director, who is actually named in this audit for some of the rules that they're going to have to do, about these findings and see what they have to say coming up after the break.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, a case involving northeastern Utah and an 88-mile railway was in front of the U.S. Supreme Court today. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The railway would carry oil from Utah to Colorado. Eagle County, Colorado, and other environmental groups argued that the testing on how a railway would impact the environment was not good enough. And a railway like this could worsen the air quality. The 7-County Infrastructure Coalition argues that their 3,600 pages of research is enough for the 88-mile railway, and they shouldn't have to analyze impacts that are outside the scope of the project.
The court expected to release a decision in June of next year. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Thousands of people have had to leave their homes in Malibu, California because of a wind-driven wildfire. ABC's Alex Stone is in Malibu.
Alec Gellis tells me he saved his home and the homes of 5 of his neighbors by using a gas-powered pump and a fire hose, battling back the flames before firefighters could get in.
It was pretty insane, and it's so thick, my eyes were burning.
Alex Stone, ABC News, Malibu, California.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down now 102 points on the day, while the NASDAQ is down by about 78. And our KSL weather, looks like we've got sunshine today, but clouds starting to build tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Open the doors to gift-giving magic at This Is the Place Heritage Park. Start checking off your list because they've got just the thing for everyone on your Christmas list. You'll find everything from curated collections to home goods, toys, and specialty international brands only at the gift shop at Heritage Park. The gift shop at Heritage Park is your one-stop shop for giving holidays and all year round. Parking is always free, and their service is priceless. Located at 2601 East Sunnyside Avenue, Salt Lake City, right at the top of the hill on the plaza by the big monument. The gift shop is open 7 days a week. Then, don't forget holiday events all season long, including Candlelight Christmas, starting up December 10th through December 23rd, except Sundays. For information finding the perfect gift, visit thisistheplace.org. Now's the time, and this is your place for gifts, traditions, and holiday fun.
At Common Spirit Health, we know that lifelong health and well-being starts with primary care. So we have doctors and providers who see you, hear you, know you, and understand you. Because understanding you means understanding your needs. And that leads to a deeper knowledge of the prevention, wellness, and treatment options that may be best for you. It's primary care that treats your whole family like family. It's primary care with human kindness. Discover all the ways you can find and connect with a primary care provider at mountain.commonspirit.org.
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Plus, let your voice be heard on the Utah Hockey Club Fan Forum on KSLSports.com, your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports and 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
We're still looking at emergency traffic now, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the Dino Pay app. Here's Ricky Meese.
Cleanup continues with this crash in Centerville, northbound I-15 near Parish Lane. Again, it's left lanes that are blocked. We still have slow and go and stop and go delays into Bountiful. Also, northbound I-15 between downtown and 6 North, UHP needed to do a traffic slowdown in order to clear something from the roadway around North Temple. That backup is starting to move again. At Western Nut, nuts are in the name, but there's a whole lot more. Delicious confections, treats, and unique decor. They're your store for client and company gifting. Call or visit westernut.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with a high of 40. Clouds start moving in tomorrow and Thursday with a chance of rain and snow. And right now, 39 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomis from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
And you are back with us on Inside Sources talking about elections and election officials, and you are with Greg Skordas and Leah Murray, and we have Ryan Cowley, State Election Director, joining us. Ryan, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
You're welcome. Good afternoon.
Ryan, you have to settle a question that Leah and I had in the first segment, which is, what is the relationship in terms of elections between the Lieutenant Governor's office and the state and the county clerks? Who's
Yeah,
the
so
boss?
that's a really good question. Yeah, the clerks are independently elected, and they're statutorily responsible for the day-to-day, the hands-on part of the elections, and the lieutenant governor has an oversight role as the chief election official in the state.
Okay, so the first sentence was exactly Leah. The second sentence was exactly Scortis.
So, Ryan, basically, my question is who's in charge of making sure that dead names are not on the voter rolls? Like, who is actually in charge of curating those lists?
We both are. Both clerks and the lieutenant governor share responsibility. Obviously, Vital Records supplies that data to us, and then we give that to the clerks. One important thing is we don't do voter registrations. We don't edit voter registrations from the lieutenant governor's office. That's the clerks. And so that information is then provided to the clerks, who then make the determination if that matches one of their voters, and then subsequently removes them if it does.
Ryan, you're always so nice. We both have the responsibility. It's nobody else's fault. I understand. So what happens is when a person passes away, Division of Vital Stats sends something into the county clerks and says, hey, this person has passed away, and they would do certain things, including remove their name from voter rolls, maybe remove their name from getting public assistance or something like that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's basically right. They give it to DCS, which is the state technology team, who then puts it into the voter registration system, which then provides it to the clerks, just to be a little more technical or accurate there. But yes, that's the basic process.
All right, Ryan, did this report tell you anything that you didn't already know? Were you surprised by any of the findings?
Well, with any audit, you don't always know what they're going to find, and that's kind of, I think, the value of the audit, is they look in places that maybe you haven't. We were a little bit surprised to find the deceased voters. There's some gaps that the audit identified between Vital Records and DTS in our office, as well as with the clerks removing those names. And so, knowing what those gaps are and knowing that that's there is really helpful, because then we can fix it going forward. And one thing that I think is really important is when we became aware of this late September, we immediately took action. We went through the list. There's about 700 of those individuals who are active voters. We went through about 450 is what we had time in our office, and went through and identified those. We gave the entire list to the clerks to make sure that those people were removed in time for the November election. And then going forward, we'll know what those gaps are, and we'll take appropriate measures to ensure that, dead people are removed in a little more timely manner.
Yeah, and so, Ryan, I was saying in the last segment that you were actually called out by title, because recommendation 1.2 says the director of elections within the office of the LG will create the rules to establish requirements and procedures. So what are you, like, when do you think, does that make sense? Like, what does that workflow look like for you? Do you start building, are you going to do like meetings to figure out what these rules look like? When will we start seeing those changes? What does that look like?
Yeah, so with the way that it works is the legislature sometimes will delegate a little bit of that legislative authority with parameters. In the lieutenant governor's office, the director of elections is the only person who has the rulemaking authority. And so we'll go through those recommendations. Some of them are pretty easy fixes. Some of them will take a little bit more time. But basically, the audit things, we've got policy in place, and the policy from the lieutenant governor's office does carry the force of law. And we've changed the audit policy 3 times this year. And so each time it changes, it's really hard if it's in rule to make all of those changes. But now we've kind of settled in. We did hand count audits of the election in November, which I think was a really useful thing. I think it does have an added value over, some of the other audits that we've done. So we'll be able to get that in place in time for the municipal elections that are coming up next August.
We're speaking this afternoon with Ryan Cowley, State Director of Elections. And Ryan, one other thing that was found in the audit, and I want you to talk about this because I don't understand what they mean by post-election audit. I mean, maybe it's self-defining, but it said that we observed, this is part of the audit summary, post-election results in all 29 county clerks' offices over the course of 3 different elections, and found that the clerks varied widely in the faithful execution of post-election audit procedures. What are those procedures, and what did they find in terms of the variance between the way the various auditors handled that?
Yeah, so the way that the post-election audits work is the clerks will count the ballots, and then after the election's over, before it's certified, For November, they did a hand count audit. The audits that they audited for the purpose of this audit were ones where they would look at the paper ballot, compare it with how the machine counted it. Now we do hand counts. We kind of take the machine part out of it. But what they noticed is some of the county clerks were, either not looking at the paper ballots, or they'd look at the paper ballots but not compare that to the cast vote record or how the machine actually counted. They would look to see that it was marked the same way. Some of the clerks, one of the requirements we have in the audit policy is that no more than one of the two people per team can be a member of the clerk staff. So the purpose of that is to bring in, some outside set of eyes. It can be from other offices in the county. It can be the public. It could be other people like that. But they shouldn't just be having just the clerk's office do the audit. And in several of the counties, they only had clerk staff doing the audits. One of the other things that they noticed is not all of the counties were swearing in the people participating in the audits, which is a requirement. So it's just kind of a few counties were doing things that weren't necessarily in harmony with the policy. And, from our office, we've provided multiple trainings leading up to the November election. We did at least 2 training sessions plus multiple calls and emails to follow up with the clerks to make sure that they knew and understood and were prepared for the audit policy. And then it's up to the clerks to follow that policy. And that's where there's a little bit of a gap, is they didn't necessarily follow the policy the way that it was intended to be followed.
Okay, so Ryan, in a KSL.com article, I was reading that Utah House Speaker Mike Schultz was saying that given the audit, we really should be revisiting the universal mail-in voting system. I'm wondering, and maybe I'm asking you to speculate, but I don't mean to make you speculate, but what do you think this audit does? Does it affect any of what you expect to happen in the legislative session around electoral reform? Or do you think it helps the case you all are making about how you manage elections in Utah?
I think it does all of those things. There's a lot of, one of the things that the audit doesn't do is it doesn't show the positives. All it focuses on the negatives. So when you look at everything that happens in elections, there's about 600 pages of code, all the different moving pieces. These are the things that they found. And while we need to fix those, and we're committed to fixing those, there's a lot of positives out there as well. And what that looks like as far as legislation, we're really not sure what that'll look like. But if the past is any indicator, every one of these recommendations will be part of legislation that does come out, and how that impacts other things, we'll have to kind of wait and see what that looks like.
Ryan, we've got less than a minute, but if you took something from this audit and you're looking forward to the next election cycle, what would be something you, as our elections leader, would be focusing on?
Yeah, you can't fix what you don't know, and there are some findings here that definitely need to be addressed, and we appreciate that part of the audit. And I think overall, we do have good elections in Utah, and this isn't. There's some things here that need to be cleaned up, but our elections are positive. They are trustworthy, and we appreciate the things and the hard work that the clerks do. And I know our staff has really put in a lot of time with a lot of pressure on us. And I think we've done some really great things that do have lasting impacts in our elections. So we'll continue to do those good things and make the process better.
And we hope you do, Ryan. And we hope you continue to join us here on KSL. You've been very good to us. When we come back after the break, let's move on to the nation's capital and discuss committee chairs in the Republican-led House of Representatives. There's a notable group of missing people from the chairs. We'll talk about that after the break.
Hi, I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. In these trying times, when inflation is out of control and our paychecks give us less and less money to support our families, the last thing any of us can afford is for the IRS to garnish wages, levy bank accounts, or seize assets. It's important now more than ever to protect your financial security.
We have reduced our tax liability by over $42,000.
$66,300.
Let us safeguard you. Visit endtaxworry.com. We have saved countless taxpayers like you millions of dollars, kept businesses in operation, and ensured that our clients receive the best possible outcome.
Nearly $65,000.
$12,000 is something that you can look at and say, okay, I can handle that.
I'm Jordan Wilcox, your Utah tax attorney. You work hard for your money. Let us work hard for you. Visit endtaxworry.com.
we're very grateful.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age.
Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Hi, I'm Miley O'Keefe. In competitive gymnastics, flexibility and precision are crucial, and Les Olson IT knows how important flexibility and precision are to your business. It's why they deliver the very best IT security, office equipment, collaborative technology, and so much more. Let Les Olson IT's Perfect 10 service empower your business at lesolsonit.com.
Les Olson IT.
For eligible individuals 18 and older with self-perceived mild to moderate hearing loss only. Results vary. See website for details and important safety information.
Life without hearing aids can be frustrating.
Andy, did you hear what she just said?
No, I'm sorry. What did I miss?
I said I got the promotion, Dad. I thought you would be excited.
You're missing out on the important moments of your life because you just can't hear them. It's time to try the Jabra Enhanced Select 500, our smallest, most advanced hearing aid. With proprietary speech clarity technology, even the most complex listening situations like a noisy restaurant are crisp and clear. And you can get the same advanced hearing aid technology and professional care you expect from a clinic at a fraction of the cost. Get Jabra Enhance over-the-counter hearing aids and stop missing the important moments. Save $300 on Enhanced Select 500 hearing aids automatically at checkout. Just go to JabraEnhance.com/radio. That's JABRA Enhance.com/radio. JabraEnhance.com/radio.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing a case today that could determine the future of a railway in the Uinta Basin. Second, some homeowners in Malibu were able to save their homes from a wildfire before firefighters got there. And third, the man accused of killing a United Healthcare executive shouted outside the courthouse that his arrest is an injustice. 39 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside my good friend Greg Skordas. Greg, do you know what I do every morning?
Do I want to?
Yeah, I go for a run,
Oh,
and
yes, of
while
course,
I am
okay.
running, unlike you, because I know you spin, right?
Yes,
So your
right.
rule is if I go spinning, then
I've
I
seen
get to
you
have
run.
a latte.
That's how you do a half marathon.
Yeah, that's right. So in the morning, I go running, and I listen to a podcast out of Washington, D.C. called The Punch Bowl. So, and what I like about this podcast is it's very inside the Beltway. And what I mean by that, it's like staffers. Does that make sense? Like who they are interviewing.
Right.
And this morning, they talked about something happening in the Republican-led House of Representatives that they were surprised by. And I kind of want to just elevate, so know that I'm citing them. Like I did not interview staffers in Congress. I'm citing them as the source, but also get your thoughts about it. And what they have found is that there will not be any female, no woman, serving as a committee chair in the upcoming Congress in the Utah House. So the two current female Republican committee chairs are stepping down. No women won their bids to lead the committees. And so there will be no women chairing committees going forward.
In the National House.
In the United States House of Representatives.
House, right.
Oh, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, the United States House of Representatives. I beg your pardon. Thank you.
So they would typically, given the Republican leadership and Republican majority, be staffed by Republicans. And maybe, I mean, I don't know, there's probably no excuse for this, but I don't know how many female Republican legislators there are. I did see it in the article, but I need to look it up here in just a second. But it does seem surprising to me, especially in as much as at least one of these leaders was actually taken away from her position.
Right. So to answer your question, there are 34 Republican women members in the House of Representatives, and one of the Representative Ann Wagner, everyone kind of expected her to become the chair, but she lost because the conference chooses who they want to be, and that she lost that to Brian Mast, a Republican out of Florida. So, I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting question, and possibly I'm pinging off of it as a woman. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I think Democrats tend to do better with diversity in leadership just because Democrats tend to have more diverse people in their conference, in their caucus. So like I said, there are 34 Republican women. There are 93 Democratic women. House Democrats will have 5 women holding top slots on committees. So, by the way, it's not equal. Does that make sense?
Sure,
it's not half
right.
and half, so let's be sure it's not parity. But the Democrats do a little bit better. So Republicans have always been aware of that. Does that make sense? And they made an effort to have diversity in their leadership. They don't just have a lack of gender diversity, they also have a lack of racial diversity. And this does kind of segue here into Utah because our own Representative Burgess Owens is vying for a committee chair. If he is successful, he would be the first Black Republican to lead a House committee. So I'm rooting for him because he's from Utah. I'm also rooting for him on that issue right there. And I guess kind of it begs the question whether it matters.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that. In 2024, should we even be having this discussion? I mean, and that's a slightly different question, but does it matter? And if so, are we doing something wrong that we're having this discussion? I mean, that's an unfair question to ask you, but I just look at this and think, okay, Might is right. They elect their leaders. They go through and decide who's best based on whatever qualifications the individuals think are appropriate, and a woman didn't get elected to a certain position. You would expect, given the number of women in the House, Republican women in the House, you'd have one, but I don't know. It's newsworthy, and it's something we're talking about, so obviously it's causing some concern. Should it? I don't know.
Right. So let's talk about it. So the House Republican leadership above, so we were talking about committee chairs. Very famous woman was a leader. Her name was Elise Stefanik. She was the House GOP conference chair, and she's now going to be the United States ambassador to the UN because she got plucked by Donald Trump to go and do that job. That position will be held by Representative Lisa McClain, a Republican out of Michigan. So she will step into Stefanik's position. That is the number 4 post in the leadership. And it's never been the case that a Republican woman in the House has served higher than that number 4 post. Again, for the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, right? So they had a woman at that highest.
The number 1 spot.
The number 1 spot. According to the article that I listened to, the podcast I was listening to this morning, someone asked a Republican staffer in the House whether Johnson might push to get more women chairs, right? So you could tell with the leadership elections coming down the pike, like what is happening. And the House Republican told Punchbowl that our speaker would not do DEI, he would get rid of it. So the answer is, how do I say, it is the case that for Republicans, I think it is harder when their conference mostly has white men, right? So I want to be clear when I say Democrats tend to have the first of a lot of things, right? So they have the first female Speaker of the House, and they've got the first man of color in their minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, because in that party, there's just a lot of more people, does that make sense, who come from those diverse populations. But your point is well taken. There are 34 Republican women in the House. One would think one of them could be serving as a committee chair. I guess the question is really, how did you say it earlier? Should we be talking about this? And the question kind of is, should Republicans care about it? So the answer for me a little bit, and maybe again, like I said at the top of this segment, I am a woman, so maybe it does kind of bother me that someone who looks like me couldn't be a House committee chair in the next 2 years. Does that make sense?
Sure it does.
Yeah.
And the speaker's saying, we're not about DEI. We're about putting people in positions because they're elected to those positions. And that's, if a woman's elected and she's qualified and she gets voted in, she's in. But we're not going to put people in simply because of that, I think is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, and then kind of like, again, so the Representative Burgess Owens will be in his battle on Thursday. So we will find out whether he gets to chair the Education and Workforce Committee. And again, I'm rooting for him because he's from Utah.
Sure.
And then I'm also kind of rooting for him because he's a black man.
Person of color, right.
Although I think he would not. Does that make sense? Like,
Sure.
I think he would not anyway make the argument that he should be the chair because he is a person of color. But I guess I do wonder if it does show, how do I say, President Trump was elected because black men and Latino men went for him. President Trump was trying to make the Republican Party a bigger tent. Does that make sense? So that more people feel included in that party. And quite frankly, I think he did a good job making that case. And then you look at Congress, and I agree with you, right? But I feel like, could it be both and? Both, it is the case that you should get a position because you've earned it, not because of your personal characteristics. And also it is the case that if the Republican Party wants to be seen as a big tent, they have got to do a better job of fostering and mentoring leadership in their ranks that don't look all like Mike Johnson.
Right. And do you think that also, Leah, part of this is, hey, we're not DEI. This is not what we're about. We're going to put the best person in the best position, and don't ever tell us that we're putting and I hate to use this phrase, a token woman in a position or a token Hispanic person into into a position. We're DEI. We're anti-DEI. We're let the best person serve.
Right, but isn't that kind of interesting? So your
Right.
argument would be, we are anti not letting the best person serve. Does that make sense?
Right.
And then you've boxed yourself into a position where you can't possibly promote a woman or a person of color in a party that's trying to look relevant
Right.
to women and people of color. So I think that's what I meant when I said it. It's a both and, right? Absolutely. If you're going to be the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, you should be good at the job, and you should not get it just because you are a woman. But if you've decided we're never going to have that conversation, so we're not even going to look at it, then you maybe box yourself into a position where you're not promoting women or people of color inside of your conference. And I just think that might be an issue.
Well, Republican House leadership has certainly made it an issue. It's made it a talking point. It's
Yeah.
made it something that they're going to be looked at. And 2 years from now, maybe they'll be a different selection of what they do.
That's right. And look, here's the deal. We're going to find out whether Burgess Owens becomes that chair of the House Education and Welfare Committee. And when we find out, if you want to find out, just a quick reminder, make sure you're signed up to get KSL's newsletter. You'll get the 3 things you need to know each day. Just text inbox to 57500 to get started. All right. In our second hour, Greg Skordas, I want to dig into the recent interview that President-elect Trump did on NBC's Meet the Press, where he is proposing a revision to the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. 2 Homeland Security special agents in Utah have been arrested by the FBI for selling alpha PHP, also known as bath salts. According to court documents, David Cole and another agent were charged with conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance. The agents allegedly worked with a confidential informant who helped arrange the sale of bath salts for 30 weeks, generating up to $300,000 in profits. A man who bought a car from a dealership in Sandy found out that the as-is sticker means what it says. The dealer refused to take the car back after the buyer said it had mechanical issues. He threatened to drive the car through the front door of the dealership, and then he did it. Nobody was injured, but police say they've arrested Michael Murray for criminal mischief. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The man charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson appeared in court today. And more from ABC's Aaron Katursky in Pennsylvania.
He appeared a bit rumpled in a brown T-shirt and a wrinkled orange jumpsuit. He was shackled at the waist and at the ankles, and he challenged his extradition. He did not waive extradition to New York.
Luigi Mangione's attorneys now have 14 days to file a formal challenge to sending him back to New York. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is down now 154 points, while the NASDAQ is down 49 as we approach the close of trading. And our KSL weather, looks like we've got sunny skies today, but clouds are moving in over the next couple of days. KSL News Time, 2:01.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Get up to a 30% upfront bonus to use for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year to help grow your retirement income. Whether you're in retirement or will be retiring within 10 years, Trajan Wealth can offer some of the highest guarantees in the business. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know no one wants to work forever. We all need to retire someday, and I know you've worked hard for your money, so now is the time to guarantee it. Take advantage of up to a 30% upfront bonus for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't woulda, shoulda, coulda. Get up to a 30% bonus just for opening an account, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Retire the right way, the Trajan way, with Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. DBA in most states says Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
An airliner takes off from the Pacific Northwest, carrying 101 passengers and crew. Most aboard Flight 293 are active duty military and their families, headed to Cold War assignments in Alaska.
Surveillance of the Soviet military buildup.
But somewhere over the ocean, with no distress call, the airliner plunges into the icy water below.
Even if all 4 engines quit, that aircraft would fly.
There were no survivors and no bodies were ever recovered. For decades, loved ones were left to wonder
what happened to Flight 293 and why hasn't there been any follow-up?
The government turned its back. Passengers and crew of Flight 293 were forgotten by everyone, except their families.
Unless we pursue it, we will never be issued a true explanation.
Unsolved Histories: What Happened to Flight 293 is available now. Follow us at unsolvedhistoriespod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. And here's Ricky Meese.
All clear and looking so much better on northbound I-15 Bountiful through Centerville, but southbound I-15, we've had a report of a vehicle fire in Draper prior to 146 South. It's blocking a right lane, backing traffic past Bangerter Highway. Celebrate the 80th anniversary of America's first Nutcracker at Ballet West with music performed live by the Ballet West Orchestra. Reserve your seats for this holiday tradition at balletwest.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with a high of 40. Clouds start moving in tomorrow and Thursday with a chance of rain and snow. And right now we're at 39 degrees with sunny skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
You're back with us on the second hour of Inside Sources alongside Leah Murray. I'm Greg Skordas. And this last weekend, Leah, President-elect Donald Trump spoke to Sunday's Meet the Press on NBC and talked about some of the things he intended to do in his first 100 days as the President of the United States, including changing the birthright citizenship that is currently included in the 14th Amendment. And just, can you give us an idea what is meant by that?
Yeah, so I teach this a lot, so I want you to just
That's why
be
I'm
careful
putting you on the
because I
spot
could
here. Right.
wander into like a 50-minute monologue about this, as every good college professor can. So the 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
So I never knew that that's where I mean, you'd think I'd read the Constitution. I have. But I didn't, where you talk about birthright, it's right there.
Yes, that's right.
Clear as it
So
can be.
let's talk about this. When we think about the world, there's two ways of getting citizenship, jus sanguine or jus soli. So those are French phrases. One means jus sanguine means by the blood. That is, if I have a child and I'm an American citizen, no matter where I am in the universe, that child is an American citizen.
Oh, okay.
Jus soli is by the soil, and that means if the human, no matter what they are, has a baby on American soil, that child is an American citizen. Usually it is the case that we have this conversation around presidential candidates. So the rule for the United States Constitution is you have to have a birthright citizen. You have to be that to be a president. So whenever it is the case that someone was born maybe in another country, right? The story I always talk about this is McCain was born like in Panama because his parents were military. So a conversation around does that count? And the answer is yes, jus sanguine, right? The question around Barack Obama, whether he was a natural-born citizen, and the answer is yes, jus soli, because Hawaii is actually a part of the United States.
I was going to say he was born in Hawaii.
Right,
What's
so
up
if
with
you're
that?
born
Right.
in the country, you get it. So the birthright citizenship comes to us in the 14th Amendment. This is a Civil War amendment, 13, 14, 15, where the Congress is dealing with how to manage former enslaved people as they kind of reconcile the end of that war. So the 13th Amendment ends slavery. The 15th Amendment gives black men the right to vote. The 14th Amendment gives them citizenship. So right here you say any person born in the United States, naturalized, that's the process if you're naturalizing, right? But born in the United States, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens. So that southern
So this
states,
is a Civil War
correct.
amendment.
So that southern states couldn't deny those people the right to be a citizen, right? Because if you had it only be by blood, then enslaved people clearly could never be citizens because their parents would never have been citizens. Now, let's be clear. Jus soli, jus sanguine, the entire Western Hemisphere, let me take that back. Almost all the countries in the Western Hemisphere, except for one, uses both of those because these hemisphere countries are filled of immigrant people. Does that make sense? Most of us who live here had people who came over from another country, right? So you are looking for to build your citizen base. So you are going to say anyone who's born here is going to count as a citizen. That is different in Europe. They have much more the case. It's jus sanguine. So in Europe, they will say to be a citizen in these states, you have to be of the blood, which means your parent had to be a citizen.
So if my wife and I had a child in Canada, we're both U.S. citizens, and we have a child in Canada, could that child be a citizen of both countries?
Yes. So, and then I think for the United States, actually, no. And I'm not sure if Canada has dual citizenship. So let me be clear,
you
right?
gotta pick your poison.
Right. You'd have to pick. So the United States basically says, no, you got to pick. But if you were in Canada having a child with your wife, one of you are citizens, doesn't matter which one, or both of you are citizens of the United States, that child has the right
to be a
jus
citizen.
sanguine has the right of citizenship through the blood.
So Trump is talking about doing away with that. And to do that, or changing it, I guess, because I think he was
No.
pinned down a little bit and said what he wants to do is get rid of birthright citizenship, it sounds like.
Right. So the answer is he would like to end birthright citizenship by clarifying the 14th Amendment. What he wants it to be is that citizenship would only be granted to those born to U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. So he is not looking to change the 14th Amendment because, as it turns out, he cannot actually do that, right? So the president doesn't get to do that. That would require the Congress to propose an amendment change or for 38 states to propose an amendment change, and then it has to go to 38 states to approve that change. Everyone who knows we only have 27 amendments for a reason. It's really hard to do.
38 is 2/3.
Right. So what happens is Donald Trump is saying, what I'm going to do is use an executive order to have the interpretation of the 14th Amendment be that you have to be the child of a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. So how he could do this would be to give an executive order to the agencies that manage deportation, and he would ask them to start deporting people. What that means is I have to think, because by the way, there's a case, and you know this better because you are a lawyer, from 1898, which was about Chinese.
When I started practicing law.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
Greg.
Thank
back
you for mentioning
in the
that.
day,
Yes.
when your hair was still black,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So in 1898, we have United States v. Wong Kim Ark, and that is a case that established birthright citizenship. It was a challenge by an Asian American, right? So we had the Chinese, horrible time in our history where America basically said anyone from China could never be a citizen. And he was like, I was born here. And the Supreme Court in 1898 said, yeah, actually the 14th Amendment means if you were born here, you get to be a citizen. So that is period. So that is really old case law on top of the 14th Amendment. So you being the lawyer, you tell us, if I am trying to change this, I got to think Trump uses an executive order, someone is going to sue and talk about this 1898 case as well as the 14th Amendment, right?
Right. And the Supreme Court of the United States is going to have to decide whether or not, like they did with Roe versus Wade, that that's not good law anymore and that it should be changed. I don't know that that's going to happen. And frankly, I think now that you've got me thinking about the way that this was passed in the first place, which was in response to the end of slavery and the response to the end of the Civil War. Had that been a thought about interpretation of it, it would have made a difference, I suppose, for those individuals as well. Maybe if you were an enslaved person and you were born in the United States, it doesn't necessarily mean your parents were lawful citizens, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know whether that would have been consistent with the interpretation of the framers when they enacted that particular constitutional amendment.
Well, yeah, because at that time in Congress, someone actually said, you do realize there are Asian people here.
Right.
And if we have this birthright citizen, they're going to get to be citizens too. And Congress went, yeah, I guess so. So someone challenged it right in that conversation when they proposed that 14th Amendment. So they were talking about it, Greg, I think, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah,
like,
right.
if they were talking about what that means. I mean, like, another word that we use historically is this word, the grandfather clause, right? So you have this idea of like, if your grandfather could do it, then
King's
you
X,
could do
right,
it.
yes,
Right.
right.
And that comes, right? Because a lot of southern states were like, your grandfather has to be a citizen so you can vote. Well, if you are the grandchild of an enslaved person, right, then you would never be allowed to vote. So what they were doing with the 15th Amendment was interrupting that. So what you saw with these three amendments, 13, 14, 15, to the Constitution, was enshrining in the Constitution the rights for Black Americans so that no state could actually change it.
You know, it does seem, Leah, though, that Trump does have an agenda. He has a mission, I guess. I don't know. The voters have given him some motivation to do something about people who are coming into or becoming citizens of our country through ways that maybe some people don't appreciate or don't understand. And maybe this is his way of saying, this is my first step to changing what's going on with respect to immigration and people coming into our country.
Yeah, and let me say
and that
this.
you shouldn't be a citizen just because your parents happened to cross the border illegally and you were born here in Texas.
Right. I mean, I think what's interesting here is, for the record, let's say that subject to the jurisdiction thereof excludes children born to foreign diplomats. So if you were like the ambassador to the United States, we're not going to acknowledge your child as a citizen. But it's an interesting conversation, I think, that we've been having on and off for quite some time.
Yeah, and we'll see where that goes. And you're right. It'll probably go to the United States Supreme Court, not anytime soon, but certainly sometime. Let's talk about this Meet the Press interview more after the break. We're going to talk about some of the other topics that came up during that. Stay with us.
The KSL News Radio app will update you on breaking stories.
A house explosion this afternoon.
And you'll get exclusive audio streams from local events, breaking news, and sports.
Cougars feel like they can overcome anything.
All of your favorite KSL hosts are there too, so you can listen anytime. Plus traffic and weather. Download it today. The app for KSL News Radio.
If you've been listening to me for a while, then you know how excited I've been to have let go of 70 pounds of fat weight in just 5 months, thanks to help from my friends at SOTA Weight Loss. It was simple, straightforward, no injections, no drugs, and no crazy exercises. SOTA clients like me lose our weight naturally, and we keep it off because they equip us with the tools we need to live a healthy, happy life. And get this is an amazing deal right now this month. Get 2 transformations for the price of 1 with SOTA's buy one, get one during the month of December. Lose weight together. It's the best way to do it. Make it a team effort. Start your 2025 off right with a partner. Double the results, half the cost. They've never made this offer before, and you only have a limited time to take advantage of it. It's so much easier when you're not alone. So go to SOTAweightloss.com to get started now. That's SOTAweightloss.com, because SOTA Weight Loss is, say it with me, state of the art.
This holiday season, give the gift of joy with Mrs. Kavanaugh's chocolates. Imagine the delight on your loved ones' faces as they unwrap a box of their handcrafted gourmet chocolates. From creamy caramels to chocolate-covered treats, each piece is made with love and the finest ingredients. Family-owned for over 60 years, Mrs. Kavanaugh's offers a tradition of quality and care. Whether it's their famous chocolate-covered nuts or their decadent fudge, Mrs. Kavanaugh's has something to make every holiday moment sweeter. Find the perfect gifts this year for your family, friends, and employees at MrsKavanaughs.com or visit their retail store to explore their holiday specials and delicious corporate gifts. Order now and make the season unforgettable with the magic of Mrs. Kavanaugh's chocolates, where every bite is a memory. Share the sweetness.
Black Friday returns at Dave's Bernina in St. George and Provo with a one-day, one chance for bargains. Dave's Bernina Lucky Friday the 13th sale.
How about a free embroidery module if you purchase a B570 QE or B770 QE Plus?
The Bernina 1008 is only $449. Previously loved and a limit of 10 per store.
The Bernina 735 is discounted and includes thousands of dollars of free accessories while supplies last.
1.9% financing for 48 months on certain machines.
Doorbuster specials, $99 walking fee for the first 10 customers.
25% off Bernina accessories.
Fantastic bargains on trade-in machines and Q20 quilters.
Save over $1,100 on the Burnett B79 for only $1,499. Many other brand new Bernina machines with prices too low to mention.
Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
Seems like all this artificial intelligence stuff stirs up the age-old debate of man versus machine. Hi, it's Dan from the Good Feet store, and let me ask you, would you let a robot cut your hair? Would you rely on an app to teach a kid to ride a two-wheeler? Let's face it, some things require the human touch. People come to us seeking a solution to foot, leg, and back pain after trying all kinds of things recommended by in-store machines or website blurbs. An impersonal, generic approach to solving a problem that's unique to you. No wonder they usually don't work. At the Good Feet store, you'll meet with an arch support specialist who will take the time to learn about your needs, your feet, your lifestyle, and then fit you from over 300 models and sizes of arch supports, designed for pain relief, better balance, and more comfort. See what we can do for you with a free fitting. Just stop in or schedule an appointment. With over 200 stores, there's likely one near you. Find yours at goodfeet.com.
The Good Feet store. Walk-ins welcome, or visit goodfeet.com for more information.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the things I love about radio is that we are all hearing it at the same time. One of the differences between that and just scrolling on your phone is that I don't know when that story was posted. Maybe an hour ago, maybe 3 days ago.
To your point about who wrote it, where did it come from, and is it dated information, our hope every day is that we can provide a more broad spectrum of information on a single topic that you can then take and make decisions on your own.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, police in Sandy say a man who was unhappy with a car he bought from a dealership crashed it through the front door. Second, the man accused of killing a healthcare executive in New York refused to waive extradition from Pennsylvania. Third, the Supreme Court heard arguments today on a case challenging a proposed railway in the Uinta Basin. 39 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside my good friend Greg Skordas. And Greg, I wanted to do just a quick callback to our last segment. President Trump is not alone in wanting to end birthright citizenship.
Oh, no,
right?
of course not, right.
So in 2015, so that predates him running for president, Pew Research Center did a poll and found that 53% of Republicans oppose birthright citizenship. So I just want to be like, as we ended, I said, we've been talking about this for almost a decade, if not longer.
Right.
This is not something that Trump created, right? So he is out of his Republican Party, coming forward with an idea that is popular among his base, right?
Sure.
So I just want to be clear about that. Besides discussing changes to birthright citizenship, President-elect Donald Trump's interview with the Meet the Press touched on some other issues. One, I thought it's interesting having a conversation around his nominees, right? So some of them seem to be doing a little bit better, some of them doing a little bit worse. We've got Department of Defense nominee Hesketh, right? Who is Hesketh, I apologize for getting that name wrong, who I thought last week when we talked about it was dead in the water, but this week sounds like maybe some people are more okay with him, so we'll kind of see how that changes. Matt Gaetz was dead in the water immediately, and so now we've got Pam Bondi, who's the Attorney General nominee.
Who was the Attorney General in Florida and at least has some credentials, unlike Hegseth and Gaetz. In terms of being appointed to that specific position, you would expect someone that has that type of leadership and that type of skill to fall into that.
Another person we've been talking about is Kash Patel as the FBI director nominee. Again, you know, I saw over the weekend, maybe you did too, that apparently Kash Patel has a list of 60 people who he considers enemies. And in this Meet the Press interview, President-elect Trump was asked whether he would use the Justice Department to prosecute political rivals, and the president-elect said no. He would leave decisions to Pam Bondi and to Kash Patel. He emphasized in this interview that he would like to focus on the future rather than pursuing past adversaries. What do you think?
I hope he's telling the truth. I mean, I hope that he's sincere about that. I sincerely do, and I think that was the right thing to say. I'm surprised that he said it because I don't know that that's consistent with his positions that he's had and maybe where he'll go. And maybe Bondi was selected in that position because he knows that she'll be a bulldog on these type of things. Maybe Patel was in that position because he knows that he's had some concerns about the FBI and may change that up a lot. Maybe that's a good thing. What I think a lot of people are afraid of, and I think what happened last week with the pardoning of Hunter Biden was that there's some Democrats and even some Republicans like Liz Cheney and others who may be thinking, I'm going to be in the Trump Justice Department's crosshairs in the next couple months. Should I be doing something about that? And of course, President Biden did that proactively as it relates to Hunter Biden, said, well, hands off my kid at least. And I don't know what's going to happen with others, but and I don't even know if Biden's going to make other pardons, but Trump was asked, I think appropriately, what are you going to do with your Justice Department? And he made it sound like he's not going to weaponize it.
All right. So another thing he talked about, which was the birthright citizenship that we talked about in the last segment, was also, in addition to that, immigration. So he, in this interview, reiterated plans to have deporting millions of individuals on day one, right? So he's going to send all of these illegal people out of the country. That'll be one of the first things that he does. He echoed comments from his border czar, Tom Homan, saying that families with mixed immigration status would be deported together to avoid being separated.
Right. How kind of a...
All right, so what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so we don't want to split up families. We'll just deport everybody. I mean, that's how I read it. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's troubling. And then what he does say, he says some of the right things. He says, well, you know, first of all, they're costing us a fortune, but we're starting with the criminals. We've got to do that, and then we'll start with others. So the criminals are already deportable individuals. I think the problem that we see in this country, what Americans don't understand, is why we're not deporting the criminals. And I think it's a matter of resources. And I suppose Trump's going to put the resources into that so that if you're here illegally and you commit an offense, even a minor offense that involves something like domestic violence or a firearm or drugs or something, they're going to deport you instead of put you on some waiting list for deportation 2 years from now when they can't find you. That's been the problem. I think that's what a lot of Americans see as it relates to criminals and deportation.
He was also asked about dreamers. So the dreamers are people who were illegally brought to the United States at a young age, whether they would be deported. And President-elect Trump said, the dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. So a little bit that sounds, don't you think, Greg, he's kind of open to figuring out how to manage that without deporting them?
Somebody was a genius to name them the dreamers, though, because they're not the schemers, you know what I mean, or the illegalers or whatever. I mean, the whole idea is they're brought into this country at a young age. It's through no fault of theirs, they're brought in here illegally. But now they've lived here long enough and done some things and created and educated themselves. I don't know, maybe give them a chance. And so I think it's hard for an incoming administration to say, no, we got to get rid of those too.
Yeah, and it's interesting about that immigration approach. So it's mass deportation of the criminals, which we already should be doing.
Sure.
So I guess the question will be, can he? Right? Like, will there be enough resources for him to actually get that done? Maybe we're going to end birthright citizenship so he can deport whole families together, right? That's the problem. So I can't deport citizens of the country, so I need to end birthright citizens. So maybe that's like step 2. Let's talk about it. Another thing that he was talking about was his economic approach and what are some of his policy priorities. So his plan to pardon individuals involved in the January 6th Capitol attack on day 1. How do you feel about that?
He's said he's going to do that. He's always said he's going to do that. But I often think of Trump as sort of transactional in that what's in it for me at the time. You know what I mean? What does he gain by pardoning those people at this point? Except that he said he's going to do that. I mean, I admit I've got a dog in the fight. I've got an individual that's part of that group. And so obviously he's hoping that he gets pardoned. And so I have to disclose that. But whether Trump is clear on that or whether he's true to his word on that remains to be seen. But he's always said one of the first things he'll do is he'll pardon the January 6th insurrectionists.
And the second thing he's going to do is drill, baby, drill. So he's going to roll back regulations to increase drilling for oil.
And I think that he only has so much that he can do about some of these things because a lot of it's Congress. A lot of it's and you know, they're agencies. And I know he's got Ramaswamy and who's the Tesla guy? Elon Musk, who are going to roll back all these regulations and say, oh, you know, we're going to, but it's not that easy.
Well, I love how you just brought that up, right? Because Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are the 2 leaders of the Department of Government Efficiency. And in this interview, and by the way, if we're going to get rid of the debt and we're going to be more efficient, one of the things we're going to have to deal with is Social Security and Medicare because that's a major driver of the debt. And President-elect Trump telling Welker that he would not raise the age requirement for Social Security and Medicare, inclined to leave it alone. So how, like a little bit, it sounds like, I don't know. Like, is he sending Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to be the bad guy while he gets to say in the interview, nothing will change?
I'm going to keep Social Security. I'm going to keep Medicare. It's something that Americans have worked for all their lives, and it's something they've come to expect. Yeah, we don't want to take that away. Yeah, and that's fine. He also left open the possibility of replacing Obamacare with something, if we can find something better. I think Obamacare has done a lot of good for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who have benefited hugely from that. So, I mean, hands off that, you would hope. If it needs some changes, if it needs some modifications, if it needs to be brought up to 2024, who knows? But I mean, you kind of look at some of these policies and some of these things and think, okay, easier said than done. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. Remember, he is elected by people who need Obamacare, right? Like people who use that service voted for him. He agreed that the federal minimum wage was a low number. He agreed to leave current conditions around access to abortion pills the way they are. I feel like he's making he is speaking to the people who voted for him, which as an elected official, he probably should do. Next up, Greg, on Inside Sources, I'd like to stay at the national level of politics. I want to have a conversation about federal judgeships, and I want to get your expert opinion as KSL's own legal analyst. Stay with us.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. Some of the traffic delays that have been happening around 5600 South in Roy will likely get better in the coming weeks. I-15 could also be fully clear of construction cones a lot sooner than we thought. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
UDOT spokesperson Mitch Shaw tells me 1900 West between Sunset and Roy, which is currently reduced to one lane on each side for a stretch, should be fully open again by the start of January. Shaw also told me they could get workers off of I-15 sometime in 2025, which would be at least a full year sooner than the whole project's deadline.
The project in its entirety expected to be done by the end of 2026. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Luigi Mangione considered the killing of a healthcare executive to be a symbolic takedown over perceived corruption and power games. That's according to a confidential assessment of the crime by the NYPD Intelligence Bureau. Mangione, as he was being taken into a courtroom today in Pennsylvania, shouted that his case is an injustice. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closed trading today down 154 points. The NASDAQ was down 49. The S&P 500 was down about 18. And our KSL weather. Today's sunshine gives way to clouds over the next couple of days. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive. Like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, Dee and I had the chance to see Beauty and the Beast, Disney's Beauty and the Beast, at Hale Center Theater. It is something you do not want to miss this holiday season. The voices delivering those beloved songs to perfection is simply wonderful. I asked Dee, what was your favorite part? And she's seen a lot of versions of Beauty and the Beast, literally around the world. She said, where do you possibly start on this? But the costumes were spectacular. She loved Belle's ensemble. With Hale Center Theater's magic, it is incredible. The staging and the special effects, the transformation from Beast to the Prince is simply masterful. Hale Center Theater, don't miss Beauty and the Beast. And give a gift of Hale Center Theater. Whether it's tickets to A Christmas Carol, gift cards make a great gift, season tickets to the 2025 season, it awaits you. Go to hct.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. Here's Ricky Meese.
Scanners calling out an accident in Murray, 4500 south, about 7th east. Also, an earlier crash at Highland Drive, Bengal Boulevard in the Cottonwood Heights area. For those traveling the Valley freeways, we do have leftover delays southbound I-15 in Draper due to an earlier vehicle fire near 146 South. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny skies today with a high of 40, then clouds start moving in tomorrow and Thursday with a chance of rain and snow. And right now we're at 39 degrees with sunny skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Back with us on Inside Sources, I'm Greg Skordas alongside Leah Murray, and we are talking now about an increase to the federal judgeships that have been sought after in this country for a long time. Democrats are saying this is great, we need more judges, but they're a little concerned about the timing of this because they've been trying to get this done for months and months, really for 20 years, or for years, I should say. They're trying to add new judgeships, and this is a bill that the House of Representatives is considering, which would add 63 permanent and 3 temporary federal judgeships over the next decade to alleviate some of the backlog of cases, which we haven't had authorized, I guess, for over 20 years. So, yeah, it's necessary. It's something we've been looking to do for some time. But the Democrats are saying, wait a minute, why couldn't have we done this on our watch? Because what it's going to mean effectively is that Trump will be able to appoint 66, it looks like, federal judges.
All right, so let's talk about this. First of all, let's back up. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, Republican out of Ohio, said there were hundreds of thousands of pending cases and that millions of Americans face unacceptable delays at federal courthouses. You are someone who works in the court system. Is he right?
Yeah, he's right. And my wife works for the federal judiciary, so I need to be a little bit careful. But yes, we're all in favor of that. And certainly federal courts are backlogged in ways that is almost inexcusable. Not only because we need new judges, but because when judges retire, it's slow. It's a slow process to reappoint and to get other judges put in that position because you have to go through this whole Senate confirmation, which is all important and is all incredibly important. But in terms of the important things that are happening on the Hill, maybe not at the top of the list. So yes, we do need the additional judiciary.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so I teach the judiciary to my intergovernment students, right? And we talk about, I love it. Article 3 of the Constitution says, all judicial power shall be vested in the Supreme Court and any other inferior courts as deemed necessary by Congress. So right here is a law that, I explain to my students, it's not like a 10 commandment, right? It's not that there are 9 members of the Supreme Court because, in stone it tells you to do that. It's because Congress said so.
Right.
So we are looking to have Congress create judges and judgeships, but the hard part about this, and this has always been true, is you have to have 3 chambers, so the president, the House, and the Senate be the same party, because no one would give another president the authority to nominate 63 people, right? So the judiciary, when you get nominated and you get appointed and you are there for life. So it's really hard to actually add judgeships or to consider maybe we need a 14th circuit or a 13th circuit in our circuit court, right? Like there is absolutely this backlog, but it's going to take having the same party in all of those chambers for us to actually move any judicial reform through. So a little bit when the Democrats criticize Republicans for delaying the vote until after the election, and they said it was political gamesmanship, Greg, I just got to tell you, yeah, duh. Like, of course, right?
Of course
Nobody would make it be the case that they were creating judgeships forever for the other party to nominate someone forever. So I feel like Democrats are not really
No, it's a losing
fair.
argument for them because what's the alternative? That you don't appoint the new judges? We need them. From whatever persuasion they are. No matter who appoints them, we need the judges because there's a backlog. I mean, we see it here in Utah. Our federal judiciary, I don't remember exactly how many full-time federal judges we have right now in Utah, but it's a fraction of the number of state judges we have. And I know that they do different work and maybe not as much work, but our federal judiciary, if you get a trial in federal court, it can sometimes be a year before you get to trial.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question. So we've got Representative Jerry Nadler, who is the top Democrat at the House Judiciary Committee, and I don't think for much longer because I think Jamie Raskin is taking over that position. I wonder, one of the things that I was reading in the stories about having Nadler step down and maybe Raskin become the person was they felt like Nadler wasn't up to the challenge of having these arguments and making these cases and that they wanted someone a little more, combustible,
right.
As a ranking member sitting next to Jim Jordan. I wonder a little bit if this is what they're talking about, right? So if Nadler could not get the Republicans on his committee to come forward to do a bipartisan bill, that he wasn't able to make this case, that might be why Democrats were frustrated with him.
Yeah, and we should also say this. This addition of 63 judges is over the next 10 years. So it's not Donald Trump's next 4 years are going to be appointing all 66 judges. And there may be it's over a 10-year period. We'll have 2, maybe even 3 administrations during that period of time. So, I mean, it's a two-edged sword. Democrats are obviously upset about the timing of it. Nadler's been asleep at the wheel, and maybe it's time for somebody else to move on. And I think that's what's being said here. Hey, wait a minute. It's not our fault that this is just getting to the floor right now.
Yeah, no, and I think your point's well taken. Thank you for that. So then tell me why they're complaining. All right, so let me just criticize Democrats
just
more.
The timing of it. Just the
timing
of it.
Just saying, pause. If the answer is what you just said, that it's going to be that the next 3 presidents get to fill the vacancies, they've kind of put that over those times, then what is the complaint? It sounds to me like that actually addresses the only issue Democrats would have.
Well, you go back 5 years and you look at Merrick Garland. He was nominated for the United States Supreme Court, and the Republicans are saying, let's let the next administration do it. Then fast forward, there's an opening while Trump is still president. He appoints Amy Coney Barrett, I think, and the Democrats are going, wait a minute, why can't we let Biden make his selection? So there's a little bit of what's the word? It's gamesmanship. It's a little bit of, but I mean, we need the judges. So.
First of all, here's the deal. Elections have consequences.
Sure, absolutely.
Right, Greg? So if you don't want Donald Trump appointing presidents, then you have to actually win the presidential election.
Right.
If you don't want Republicans confirming them in the Senate, you have to actually win the Senate, right? So that is true. A little bit, I feel, and I appreciate what you're saying, that it feels like Republicans are mean, and you can point to the 2 cases where they are. But Democrats are mean too,
sure.
Right? So if they could have the Senate and the president, which they have for the last 4 years, they would have appointed and confirmed all of the judges that came up for renewal. So I guess I kind of feel like this is Democrats complaining about something that's not a thing. Which is maybe why they keep losing elections.
Maybe a good point. And they get outsmarted at their own game way too often.
Yeah.
And they get caught up in it. Yeah, I mean, this is a necessary thing. And the timing of it's a little goofy. I think that the Democrats are going to have to come around. I mean, you've got to confirm them. You've got to put the judges in the position. And frankly, and I guess I'm biased. I'm biased because I'm in front of judges all the time. But judges are not, with the exception of maybe our Supreme Court right now a little bit, they're not very political.
I
know
love
what I
that
mean?
you think that.
I know, but I mean, I'm a little concerned about some things that are happening right now at the Supreme Court. But I mean, judges by and large they don't make decisions.
You have totally bought into the cult of the robe, Greg Scoris.
I have. I mean,
judges are human.
No question, and absolutely, they have political opinions, but they also have that. They also are not. They're not beholden to the voters. They're not beholden to their caucuses. They're not beholden to their county conventions. You know what I mean? They're appointed for life and probably should be, so they can make decisions no matter who put them in that position. They can make decisions, and I know I'm being Pollyanna-ish a little bit here, based on what they think is right according to the Constitution, not whether they're going to get voted one way or the other, or whether they're going to get funding or lobbying or somebody like that coming after
Except
them.
for when they make a decision you don't like.
Which
and then you say that they're totally political.
Periodically happens.
So real quick, just talk to us about what does this do in the day-to-day churn. You said your wife works for the circuit court judges, right? She's in the federal judiciary.
She's in the 10th Circuit right today.
Is that going to make everything easier, or is this even enough? Do we actually need a lot more than 63 judges?
I think 63 is a good number. It's probably a little bit too little too late, and especially 63 over the next 10 years because you would expect they need 63 now. You know what I mean? I think it's something that we're way behind. But yeah, I think it's a good step. Probably a step in the right direction. I didn't realize this was going on. I probably would have talked to her about it. But I assume there's some excitement at the circuit courts and even the federal district courts saying, "Hey, we're going to get some help here," even if it should have happened 4 or 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see where that goes. We'll see who those people are. Certainly, the Senate's not going to cause Trump a lot of problem of getting these people through, and maybe they shouldn't. I mean, like I say, I'm biased toward judges a little bit because I think they, by and large, do a good job. You think I'm biased, however. You think I've bought into the, what did you say, the cult of the robe?
The cult of the robe, that's right.
I have to remember that. Hey, stay up to date on the latest news with KSL's 3 Things newsletter. Each day, you'll get an email with the 3 top things you need to know about your day. It's super easy to get started. Just text INBOX, INBOX, to 57500. When we come back after the break, we're going to take a break from politics and discuss a few things related to the holiday season. That'll make it fun, won't it, Leah?
Absolutely.
Stay with us.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Join KSL News Radio and Tim and Amanda this Friday from 3 to 5 at the Salt Lake NPS store at 1600 Empire Road. Get your holiday shopping done too. More at npsstore.com.
For eligible individuals 18 and older with self-perceived mild to moderate hearing loss only. Results vary. See website for details and important safety information.
Life without hearing aids can be frustrating.
Andy, did you hear what she just said?
No, I'm sorry. What did I miss?
I said I got the promotion, Dad. I thought you would be excited.
You're missing out on the important moments of your life because you just can't hear them. It's time to try the Jabra Enhanced Select 500, our smallest, most advanced hearing aid. With proprietary speech clarity technology, even the most complex listening situations like a noisy restaurant are crisp and clear. And you can get the same advanced hearing aid technology and professional care you expect from a clinic at a fraction of the cost. Get Jabra Enhance over-the-counter hearing aids and stop missing the important moments. Save $300 on Enhanced Select 500 hearing aids automatically at checkout. Just go to JabraEnhance.com/radio. That's JABRA Enhance.com/radio. JabraEnhance.com/radio.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the big differences, I think, between reading a story online and hearing it from us, Tim, is that, you and I are allowed to share a reaction. We need to be able to say, what in the world were they thinking? So that people listening will know. We feel it too. When we read a story that sounds ridiculous, we're right with you. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, we get caught up, I'm sure just like our listeners do sometimes, in death scrolling on social media.
Yeah.
And fact-checking it on your own is tough. The great thing about tuning in every morning and starting your morning with us on KSL is you can count on the fact that when that information comes out of the radio in your direction, it comes from reliable sources.
It's already been fact-checked.
Right. And that's not always easy when you're getting it online. Finding who wrote it, when was it written, has it been updated with the current facts of the day that change sometimes minute to minute, not just day to day.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, UDOT says the construction that's kept traffic at a crawl on 1900 West and Roy should be done by New Year's. Second, the man accused of killing a healthcare executive in New York shouted that his case was an injustice as he was being led into court today. And third, even if you're so unhappy with the election that you want to move to another country, that cost might keep you home. Right now, it's 39 degrees in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside Greg Skordas. Greg, over this last weekend, I got my hair cut and ended up in a conversation, as you do when you're having your hair done, with the hairstylist about the Christmas party that she had to go to, right? So it was a whole conversation about how, this time of season, there's Christmas parties, there's holiday parties. Everyone's doing like the end of year kind of fun, culminating end of year events. Does your firm have a holiday party?
We do, but we're a very tiny firm.
And
the holiday party is like a table of 8 usually.
Like you take them out to dinner?
We take them to lunch. We go to a lunch.
That's not a party. Lunch is not a party.
But it's the end of the day.
Let me help everyone who works for you and say you want to have a dinner.
Dinner. But it's like the end. We don't go back to work after the holiday party that day. We usually do it the day before Christmas Eve and have a lunch and give gifts and.
Okay, and do you give good presents to your employees?
Well, I do, but then they have this silly white elephant thing they do. I don't like that, but I give a gift, but it's, they're
So
my
everyone
employees.
gets a fancy pants gift from the boss, Greg Skordas, and then they bring something ridiculous, like the white elephant is a ridiculous thing?
Yes.
All right, so we are headed into, and this is the thing I'm teasing. For those of you who listen to us over at KSL at night, I always like to tease Greg Skordas about... because he's funny. So here at Inside Sources, in this segment, here it comes the teasing. Greg, do you feel in these holiday party situations that you are super smooth or are you awkward?
I have to admit, I'm awkward socially. I really am. I'm a bit of an introvert. And that might come as a surprise because I'm a trial lawyer. You'd think I'd be out there. But, man, I don't know that I do well in those settings.
I love that. So today...
You're just the opposite. I can just hear your voice at the holiday parties. I can hear your laughter at the holiday parties. I can hear you're the... You remember this Spuds McKinsey? The party. Leah's here.
So first of all, I love that you're saying this. I want to tell you, I have a very distinct laugh. People who are listening have heard me laugh. And I have had people find me at parties who are like, I knew you were here because I heard your laugh. Right. And here I come over. So I don't know. How do I say? If you just laugh, then it's not really awkward because then it looks like it's a joke, right? Like you were in on that joke. There's an interesting article in the Deseret News about awkwardness and holiday gatherings. So maybe this helps you. Awkwardness is hard. One of the reasons the article says that we might feel awkward is this kind of self-consciousness tinged with some uncertainty from journalist Melissa Dahl in her 2018 book, Cringeworthy, A Theory of Awkwardness. So do you think what's happening, because I like how you talked about this off the air, Greg, as we were coming into this segment, that you're like, when I'm in the court, right, like I just flow. Everything is smooth. Everything is great. At this lunch, which, by the way, should be a dinner, for my employees at the end of your holiday, it gets awkward. Do you think it's because in that moment you're self-conscious and you are a little uncertain, whereas in the court you're like, I've been doing this for, what did you say earlier, since 1898? So I've been doing this for a really long time, and so there's really not any uncertainty there, and that's maybe why the awkwardness goes away?
Well, I'm controlling the dialogue when I'm in court. And I guess that's kind of weird, but I don't have to make conversation. I don't have to talk to the person sitting next to me and say, try to make something comfortable. I'm not going to say it's my show, but I'm at least directing the dialogue when I'm in court. I'm asking the questions. If I have a witness on the stand, I'm the one that asks the questions. I don't answer the question. You know what I mean?
So, Greg, the issue is you are awkward because you can't control what the other person says in a conversation?
Well, because, maybe that's part of it. Because I can't control what I'm going to respond to in the conversation as well. I just am. I don't do well at that. I mean, I'm always the one that we go to these, and we've already had one Christmas party where you go.
How'd that go?
And you sit at the table and it's like, okay, who am I going to sit by and what am I going to say to this person? And, my wife's always like, oh, let's go sit by these people. I'm like, no, they're your friends. They're not mine. You know what I mean? And so it's just a little bit different. So suddenly you're sitting next to someone for an hour and a half and kind of going, well, hey, you know what I mean? I struggle with that. I really do.
No, I think it's interesting. The conversation my husband and I have about the middle of a table. Does that make sense? So for the record, if I were hosting a party, there's never a table that we're all sitting at for an hour and a half. So the idea would be you can always be moving around.
Sure.
So if this conversation's getting difficult, I can move on without it being awkward, right? Like I could just kind of like the flow of that. But we always have a conversation about every table needs to have a good middle, which I think he got from some show that he watches, and I apologize for not citing it. Yeah, but like the point is the person in the middle can't be someone who's ever awkward. So it's like a ringleader of the table. They are managing the conversation.
Just
like, well,
there's no middle of the table.
Yes,
it's a round table, and there's no middle.
Well, not all tables are round, Greg.
Okay.
Sometimes a table, we're not all King Arthur at Arthur's court, right? So that
I see. Right.
But your point's well taken. Like maybe your wife, when she takes you to a dinner with all of her friends, you should not be sitting in the middle of the table.
Right.
To a certain extent, you probably should be a bookend of the table, so that way, right, the conversation like flows really well. But I think it's interesting when we feel like we're awkward, and I want to say this, I get into this with my students all the time, and how to have a conversation. And I literally printed out and put up on the bulletin board outside my office how to have conversations over Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like holiday conversations. Right. And I'm always talking about politics, because that's one of them. But people have a hard time and feel awkward having a conversation about, like, if someone in the family has passed away in the last year, right? Like, grieving can make it awkward. Or if someone has some kind of illness, right? That can make it awkward. And a little bit, it's like we should be having those conversations. Does that make sense? Like, we should be leaning into practicing how to have those conversations. And probably when you're feeling awkward, what you want to do is lean into the empathy that you might feel. Like, this is, man, this just became awkward because I'm feeling kind of self-conscious about what we're talking about, and trying to, you know, be more present in that conversation.
Right. So I would not talk politics around a dinner table. What I try to do when I feel a little bit awkward is try to ask as many questions to the person I'm sitting next to.
You interrogate them.
Well, no, try to learn as much about them as possible.
Okay.
Let them talk. Learn as much about them. Do you ski? You know, what do you like to do? That kind of a thing. You know, if they've seen a movie, well, tell me what you liked about it. You know, if they have a certain career that maybe it's not that interesting, but there's something interesting about it, and talk about it. Oh, that sounds interesting. You know what I mean? Like, bring them out. That's how I deal with my own. But I don't do very well on the other side when people say, "Hey, you're a lawyer. What interesting case are you working on right now?" Because it's like, well, I can't really tell you.
You know
what I mean?
Can't tell you.
It's kind of a secret. If I tell you, I'll have to kill you. So you know, it's a little different. I'll tell you one thing. Being on KSL, people ask you questions all the time. Oh, I heard you on KSL. I heard this. I heard that. You know, so that's helped me a little bit. You know, being out in the public a little bit.
All the holiday parties got better because of these conversations.
Hey, it's Squirtus from KSL.
No, and I love this. So in the article, they were talking about, like, how can you make these social interactions less awkward? And one of the things they listed was comedy and laughter. So a little bit, I feel like, I love that earlier you said, I know you at a party is you're just laughing. And maybe part of that is, yeah.
So people want to be with you. People want to sit with you. People want to talk to Leah. Where's Leah? You know what I mean? Because you are fun. You are that way.
Yeah, but also maybe I do that because that's how I managed being awkward. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, this is going to be a hard conversation, so let's, like, laugh about it while we're doing it. But the other advice they had, which I thought was kind of interesting, was to destigmatizing asking for a social cue. So if you're feeling awkward, you could say, like, is it okay for me to talk about this, right? Or can I ask this question, and just be okay with acknowledging and owning being socially awkward?
Yeah, that's interesting. But it's not something I'd be comfortable doing. But I understand. When you said, you know, when you introduced that, I thought, where's she going with this? But yeah, you know, you're comfortable talking about this, especially as it relates to politics or religion or something like that. You know, are you okay talking about this? I agree with that.
Yeah, I know, and I love, like, I often will say, I'm just going to wander on into this conversation here and let's see how it goes, right? Although I want to tell you what, Greg, I love talking to you. I don't think there's any awkwardness between us.
Well, we're friends, and we have a lot in common.
Thank you so much for joining us and listening to Inside Sources. Join me. I'll be back tomorrow, beginning at 1 p.m. Next up, Jeff Kaplan's News.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 39 degrees. KSL's top story. A pair of Utah-based Homeland Security agents have been arrested by the FBI. They were allegedly selling a notorious drug called bath salts. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera joins us live with the latest. Eric.
Jeff, Special Agent David Cole of Homeland Security Investigations was arrested by the FBI 4 days ago on charges of conspiracy to distribute according to court documents. The felony complaint says Cole and another unnamed agent enlisted the help of a felon who had just gotten out of prison, someone with drug trafficking knowledge. Little did those agents know, the person they enlisted went to police to report them. Police say the two agents sold thousands of dollars worth of bath salts every week for more than 7 months. The informant has been cooperating with the FBI on the investigation since March. Live, Eric Cabrera, KSL News. The DEA says they mimic the effects of cocaine, meth, and ecstasy. A photo of it on the DEA's website really does look like Epsom bath salts. The most notorious story I can remember involving bath salts was back in 2012 when a 31-year-old man in Miami ripped his clothes off and bit off parts of another man's face while high.
Thanks a lot, Eric. I think KSL News Time 3:01. A nationwide shoplifting ring has been busted up with the arrest of a dozen people in Orem yesterday. Police recovered more than $100,000 in clothing stolen from major retailers. A police bulletin was issued in Michigan, and an Orem police officer recognized one of the suspects from a theft at an Orem sporting goods store. Among other things, Orem police recovered a backpack of stolen goods lined with a metal that can fool security sensors. The suspect in the killing of United Healthcare's CEO is fighting extradition to New York. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Chef Luigi Mangione struggled with deputies and shouted while arriving for a court appearance in Pennsylvania.
As completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
His defense lawyer informed the court that Mangione would not waive extradition to New York, but instead wants a hearing on the issue. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre offering condolences to the family of United Healthcare's CEO Brian Thompson. Reporters asking her if the White House has any message to Americans who might sympathize with the shooting suspect's purported motive. Insurance companies care more about profits than people's health.
Obviously, this is horrific. Violence to combat any sort of corporate greed is unacceptable.
A law enforcement bulletin is warning insurance companies to put in place more security in case of copycat crimes. Prosecutors are trying to preserve President-elect Donald Trump's hush money conviction as he returns to office. In court papers made public today, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office proposed an array of options for keeping the historic conviction on the books. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
The number one high school basketball recruit in the nation is going to play for BYU next year.
Five-star recruit A.J. DiBanza will be playing in BYU Blue next year, choosing the Cougars over offers from Alabama, Kansas, Duke, and UNC. He announced his decision live on ESPN's First Take this morning, saying he was really impressed when he visited Provo and that he believes BYU and their professional coaching experience will be the best way for him to progress to the NBA. DiBanza currently attends Utah Prep and intends to play for the Cougars for a year before entering the NBA draft.
Listen to this for now. DiBanza is projected to be the number one pick in the 2026 NBA draft. A federal judge in Oregon has blocked Kroger's proposed merger with Albertsons, siding with the FTC. According to CNN, the judge said the $25 billion deal would hurt consumers and limit competition. State election officials are responding to an audit released yesterday that found more than 1,000 deceased voters were on Utah's voter rolls. State Director of Elections Ryan Cowley says the audit helped find gaps in their system.
We were a little bit surprised to find the deceased voters. There's some gaps that the audit identified between vital records and DTS in our office, as well as with the clerks removing those. names. And so, knowing what those gaps are and knowing that that's there is really helpful because then we can fix it going forward.
So more than 1,000 deceased voters on the rolls. Did they vote? No, except for maybe 2 or 3. Cowley says some of the recommendations will be pretty easy to apply, while others will take more time. He says they should all be in place for the municipal elections in August. KSL News Time 3:05. After the election, you heard about people saying that they're going to leave the country. Well, you can't just load up the car. Bank rate analyst Alex Gailey told Dave and Dujanovic this morning the cost of going to Canada and staying, well, you need money in the bank, minimum $20,000.
That $20,000 to $24,000 figure, it's not taking into account the first month's rent or mortgage. It's not taking into account utilities or a phone plan.
Gailey says that movers will cost another $7,000 on top of all that. KSL News Time 3:06, time for first look traffic. Let's see if the roads are moving. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have slowdowns already waiting for you southbound I-15 in the usual spot, Murray and Midvale, plus a crash called out for Davis County drivers northbound I-15 in Clearfield, moved to the shoulder. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A story a little birdie told me. Stay here. My Minute of News is on the way. Next.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and Hale Center Theater as the movie show broadcasts live at the theater beginning at 11 a.m. 9900 South Monroe Street in Sandy. 2025 season tickets are now on sale and make great Christmas gifts. Gift cards are also available for any amount. The 2025 season includes Little Women, the Broadway musical, DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt, Finding Neverland, 12 Angry Men, Footloose, the musical comedy Murders of 1940, Sister Act, and Disney's Frozen. Playing now on the center stage is Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And on the Jewel Box stage, the 40th year of A Christmas Carol. Go to hct.org or call 801-984-9000.
Tim, we've got some really good news for our listeners.
Yeah, as long as we've been talking about soda and seen all the success stories around the halls here at KSL about soda, we have never seen this.
Yeah, so it's 2 for 1 in the month of December, which means, I had life-changing weight loss with soda. I lost 34 pounds, and I did it, 3 years ago now? And I want that increase in energy and confidence and health for all of our listeners. And right now, you and your spouse or you and your child could do it 2 for 1.
Double the results, half the cost. We've told you the story of my daughter who lost 42 pounds and how that nutritionist actually becomes like a member of your family. Well, now you can have a member of your family who also gets the benefits of being able to reach out and get that needed help along the way from a great nutritionist.
How great is that to be able to not just do it for yourself, but to also do it for somebody you love?
Go to sodaweightloss.com right now. It's spelled SOTA and it stands for State of the
Art.
Odyssey Dance Theater's Christmas Spectacular, starring David Osmond. All your favorite Christmas season events in one production. Visit odysseydance.com for show details and tickets.
Spend your workday with a talk show that makes you feel better about the news.
Debbie is the voice of reason, and Dave reminds me of my little brother. Well-spoken, and they're a great team together.
Dave and Debbie, live from 9 to noon, or podcast the show on the app for KSL News Radio.
This is My Minute of News, brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com. In the middle of the Pacific, there's a little island called the Midway Atoll. It's owned by the U.S. It's populated by 40 people and birds. Lots of birds. Listen. Among the many winged creatures, there's an albatross there named Wisdom. An albatross typically lives to age 12, in some cases even 40 years. But Wisdom, she was first tagged in 1956, and she's still going. Wisdom's on her 4th husband, and she startled the world of science last week by laying an egg, which she's sitting on, and chances are good she's soon going to be a mom. Again, at age 74, she instantly becomes the oldest bird ever known to pop out a baby, or at least a baby maybe. They say chances are good the egg will hatch To put this in human terms, it'd be like a 200-year-old woman giving birth. If you could imagine a woman who remembers the time before strip malls, before cars, before asphalt, born before football and baseball, back when boats were creaky wooden sailing ships. No microwaves, no ovens. I'm talking about the good old days when you do laundry with a big pot and a stick. This 200-year-old woman would probably be Grand Marshal of the Days of 47 parade and bring her own hand cart. Such a woman could have voted for Abraham Lincoln. What am I talking about? Women couldn't vote. But she could have listened to her second husband mansplain why he voted for Honest Abe or against. And after all the wars and pandemics and babies and life, she'd then put in her teeth and with her yellowed eyes try and focus and tell you in a raspy whisper, I'm having a baby.
I'm having my baby.
A 200-year-old woman raising a newborn. Could you imagine? I think it's for the birds. In this case, literally.
I'm having my baby.
Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News, only on KSL News Radio.
That song, Traffic and Weather Together, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the Dino Pay app. Here's Ricky Meese.
Southbound to I-15 traffic still recovering from an earlier little bit of trouble in traffic after 2100, but before 33rd South. They finally were able to get a vehicle out of traffic to the shoulder, and what's left there back to the I-80-201 junction is starting to thin out. But the real delays are waiting for you, and they're already in place between 53rd South Murray to 72nd South Midvale. After that, you're good to go all the way to Provo. The rest of your Salt Lake County freeways, not too bad. Traffic starting to build in the construction zone westbound on the 201, approaching and passing I-215. Steve?
Nice sunny drive right now. Good speeds up and down I-15. That's both ways between downtown Salt Lake City and Willard Bay. Had a report of a crash on northbound 15 at 650 North in Clearfield on the right shoulder. Still trying to find that in the traffic cams. Haven't seen it yet. Doesn't mean it's not there, so watch out for it. Looks like the West Side Belt, Legacy looking good. Same for Highway 89 so far. Is the IRS harassing you, garnishing your wages, or threatening asset seizure? Get immediate relief. Contact Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Visit TaxHelpUT.com. That's TaxHelpUT.com. Steve Carlson in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll be breathing easy once again today. Sunny skies and temperatures in the low 40s. 24 overnight, mostly clear skies. Tomorrow's partly cloudy, 44. We'll then see on Thursday, mostly cloudy skies with a PM rain-snow shower possible. Highs in the low 40s. From the KSL Weather Center, I'm Matt Johnson.
And right now in Salt Lake City, the temperature reading is, let me check the numbers here. Oh, we're up to 40. Okay. Stay with us. We understand Luigi Mangioni's lawyer is about to hold a news conference. We'll try and bring it to you live. Stay with us. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. I ain't happy. I'm feeling
Soon you're going to be putting out the glass of milk and the plate of cookies, and if you're lucky, Mike Wilson comes shimmying down the chimney to tune up your furnace. Over at Any Hour Services, Mike and the team know that you don't want to plan the perfect Christmas only to have your heat stop working. So take advantage of the incredibly inexpensive 29-point furnace tune-up. At my house, we do this every year. We get a detailed written report, and if anything's not right, we catch it before it ruins Christmas. And Any Hour's expert, certified technicians can fix or replace your furnace while Mike is sitting in the kitchen kneading his third cookie. Whenever you work with Any Hour, you get the best quality for your money. I speak from 9 years of experience, but you should check their 25,000 Google reviews. Then call for an appointment, 801-443-7400. You can make your appointment online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Jazz games are better together. Host an unforgettable night at Delta Center with colleagues, friends, families, whoever. Group tickets are the best way to get everyone together to cheer on the Jazz. Pick from a variety of options for seating, dining, and game day experiences. Start planning your big night at the game by calling 801-355-DUNK, emailing group sales at utahjazz.com, or simply visiting utahjazz.com.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
Well, what other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Give the perfect gift to your family this winter. Come and play in Bear Lake. Reserve your winter getaway now and relax during or after the holidays. Visit bearlake.org.
KSL News Time 3:15. The three things you need to know this hour. First,
a Utah coalition was in front of the Supreme Court today asking the justices to repeal a decision that stops them from building an 88-mile railway in the Uinta Basin. I'm KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla.
Second, a nationwide shoplifting ring's been busted up with the arrest of a dozen people in Orem yesterday. Third, our biggest traffic trouble spot.
In Summit County, it looks like crews have been able to wrap up this accident on SR 224 at Meadows Drive. It was causing a lot of northbound delays. Those have also eased. Here in the valley, it's only southbound I-15 where we're seeing slowdowns going from Murray into Midvale and Sandy. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunshine and blue skies today with a couple of storms lining up in the 7-day. I'm Matt Johnson.
Fresh air and 40 at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Now our top national stories.
From ABC News, I'm Lindsay Davis, anchor of Prime, streaming weeknights on ABC News Live. Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is challenging his extradition from Pennsylvania. The 26-year-old was heard screaming as he was taken into a Pennsylvania courthouse.
And it's completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
ABC's Aaron Katursky is outside the Blair County Courthouse in Pennsylvania.
Once he walked into the courtroom, he appeared a bit rumpled in a brown T-shirt and a wrinkled orange jumpsuit. He was shackled at the waist and at the ankles, and he challenged his extradition. He did not waive extradition to New York to fight the second-degree murder and other charges Mangione now faces in connection with the death of Brian Thompson.
Mangione is being held without bail. Rebel forces in Syria are in charge after ousting the country's longtime dictator, Bashar al-Assad. National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby says the U.S. is continuing to monitor developments there and underscored the counter-ISIS mission by U.S. troops will continue in the wake of Assad's fall from power.
We don't want to give ISIS an opportunity to exploit what's going on. They love nothing more than ungoverned space.
Russian President Putin has granted Assad political asylum. Another health scare for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Aides say the 82-year-old tripped during a lunch with GOP senators. He sustained a minor cut to the face and sprained his wrist, but is doing fine. You're listening to ABC News.
And now the KSL In-Depth. It's an absolutely breathtaking place to live, but not today. Malibu is being ravaged by a vicious wildfire that sparked last night. It's prompted mass evacuations. ABC News correspondent Alex Stone joins us live from Malibu. So, Alex, how's the wind this afternoon?
The wind is a lot better. Overnight, it was winds of 90 miles an hour, and in this area, more around 65 or 70 miles an hour. But the flames were running in that wind at that speed, quicker than humans could run, and went through the canyons. And people were getting out or fighting back the flames. In fact, I talked to Alec Gellis, who recounted for me what it was like last night. He and his neighbors, they put in to buy a fire hose, an industrial fire hose, a gas-powered pump, and so they could do what they did last night, pulling water out of their swimming pools to fight back the flames and refusing to leave, and they did exactly that, he told me.
It was pretty insane, and it's so thick, my eyes are burning, my voice is so hoarse. And I don't even know how much smoke I inhaled.
He says it was so hot in that moment, his skin burning as they used the hose to drench homes. He showed me videos of their battle. It looked like walls of fire all around them as they ran around just shooting water wherever they could to save their homes.
There was so much fire in here. It was insane. insane. Insane.
He did what firefighters say not to do, but it did work. He says they weren't going to let their homes go, that they have all taken a pact that they know firefighters can't get in the winds into the canyons and that they've got to do it on their own. Feels pretty good about himself today.
What a night. Did something for the community. All about giving back, doing things for other people, being grateful for what you have, because it could all go in a second.
About 2,700 acres have burned here that ran in those Santa Ana winds. About 800 students have been sheltering in place today here at Pepperdine University as the fire moved in. And in fact, as I look at Pepperdine right now, Jeff, that the front lawn is being used as a fill spot for the big Chinook helicopters coming in, military-style helicopters, as they are refilling in a pond out front of Pepperdine. They fill up, take off. It is an Air Force, one after another, a whole bunch of them coming in and together orchestrating all of this, taking off and landing as they fill up and try to put out these flames.
Yeah, I heard a chopper there for just a moment. Alex, is it still 0% containment?
Yeah, still 0%. Probably will be a while before they get any real containment on it. But the flames, with the winds dying down, the flames have definitely died down as well. The humidity is a big part of this. 2% humidity today. I mean, that is incredibly low. The bushes just explode when they ignite. The red flag warning, it's not even a red flag alone. It is called a PDS red flag, a rare warning, particularly dangerous situation red flag, until tomorrow night because the humidity is so low.
Heart-stopping moments overnight, as you've just heard, and certainly a difficult situation in Malibu. ABC News correspondent Alex Stone is there. It's 3:20. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the Dino Pay app. Here's Ricky Meese.
Filling in and slowing down southbound I-15 between 4500 South Murray, almost to 90th South. If you're headed westbound on the 21st South Freeway, construction slowing setting in. This goes from Redwood almost to Bangerter Highway. The rest of your Salt Lake County freeways are looking good. We have had some heavy and slow traffic both directions of Bangerter approaching the 201 junction, and the delays pretty typical southbound Mountain View at 3500 South.